What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Smeshcast. We got the whole crew this week. We got Noah and Adam joining me. I'm Rowie. Let's get right to it. Why don't we, guys? We did have some good fights last night. We do have some good fights next weekend. We're going to talk about an insane UFC 252 card. But let's start right off with Lewis versus Oleinik that we had just last night. That main event. Derrick Lewis puts out Oleinik in that second round. Some brutal ground and pound after he puts him down with that big right hand. Noah, do you want to start us off with that one?
Well, honestly, I don't think there's really like a whole lot to even be analyzed. I mean, it comes down to Lewis he's just too big to be choked out. You can't squeeze enough. It's like he has too much space. You can't finish him like that. If Oleinik couldn't choke him out like that, I mean, who can, right? I think it begs the question how good Cormier is that he was able to make Lewis look like a child out there. And meanwhile, Lewis goes in with a guy like Oleinik who has, a record like he does and who is well respected. I mean, you saw he picked him up and ragdolled him at one point. He flipped him around like a helicopter rotor. I don't know if I've ever seen someone do something like that.
I mean,
crazy.
Adam, you have the most jiu-jitsu experience out of the three of us. What do you think of those chokes?
Yeah, so like the scarfold is it's more of a judo move, and you can get a choke like that. It's no problem, especially with somebody like Alexei who has the skills for it. But Derrick in like the first round was playing a little bit more into his game, trying to wrestle, and then it ended up going to the ground a little bit. But then in the second round, it was just like it was no problem. Derrick Lewis was like, "All right, it's time to fight now." Throws the flying knee and just finishes the fight with a beautiful overhead. It's crazy.
Yeah, it was weird because he just keeps on going for that same choke, that scarf hold that you were talking about, and he went for it twice, or maybe it was three times.
I believe you mean the British Bulldog.
Yes, sure, the British Bulldog. He was going for that though. Every time he got Lewis down, he would just go right into that. He didn't try for any traditional submissions. That's a really old school move, from my understanding, and it just doesn't have. It might have some control, but I mean, from every time I've seen that used in the UFC, the commentators always say like you can get a choke like that, but it's not as restricting as most of these things are. It doesn't finish the fight like a rear naked choke, and that's what you were saying, Noah, with DC. DC got that rear naked, right? That's something that you can't just fight through like you might be able to a little bit more with this scarf hold.
Yeah, the scarf hold is great for getting some control time and recovering. Like if you have the scarf hold, you can recover a bit while you're making it difficult for your opponent to breathe. But so him going for the choke was using the scarf hold was, I guess maybe thought he could go somewhere with it, but in the end it kind of just led nowhere.
I mean, he held it for like over a minute. Like,
I
get going for it, but after 30 seconds, you're just squeezing yourself out. And he only let it go with like 30 seconds to go. And Lewis actually showed off some really good wrestling. I know Lewis has some wrestling background, but you just don't expect a guy that big. He's a lot more agile now. He's lost some weight, but you don't expect a guy like that to move like that. It was pretty impressive.
Putting in the work.
Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about, this is a little bit of a, don't mean to throw it back to last week, but really carrying on from that conversation from last week, that stoppage I thought did look a little bit late. Lewis put Oleinik down with that big right, and he went for that ground pound. He was hitting him hard, and that was fine. And I actually thought that first 10 seconds or so I thought was completely justifiable. Let that go, and then all of a sudden there was a point where Oleinik slumped down and kind of collapsed. And Lewis kept on hitting him, and it went on for a full 10, 15 more unanswered strikes. And that's when I started yelling at the screen, stop the fight, what's going on? The first bit, like it was like the first half of that ground pound was okay, and the second half was just too much, in my opinion.
Right. I'm going to pull that finish up for myself quickly, just so I can give you my kind of on-the-spot little analysis of what happened. Because I don't have the quickest memory.
I wish we could have it up on the screen. And and playing, and we can analyze it Dan Hardy style, but I don't think we have the copyright.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So you're absolutely right. There were, God, okay, I'm going to try and count these unanswered strikes on the ground. I'll give Herb some points because Oleinik does initially look like he's going for like a single leg. And with a guy
That's what I
like
said.
him,
Yeah, for
with a
sure. The first
grappler
half was
like
fine.
him, you want to give him as many opportunities to use his strength. But okay, from the knee, there's one strike to the head. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22,
Like
23, 24, 25
when you get to that 15, it's like at
unanswered.
that point, dude, stop it.
Yeah.
25 unanswered Derrick Lewis punches to the dome.
And those sounded like every single one of those punches sounded like a baseball being thrown like by a full MLB pitcher being caught in a mitt. Just poof.
Right.
That whop was just so loud.
I don't understand how his skull didn't cave in.
And this is a 43-year-old man. This is not a young gun, a young buck. Yeah. Right? This is a guy who says he wants to fight another 10 years. I don't know if we're going to see that, but especially after taking those Derrick Lewis punches.
Yeah. I'll tell you, anyone looking out to fight Derrick Lewis, I mean, he's already an intimidating man, but that's one of the most intimidating finishes I've ever seen by him. Just from the flying knee onwards, it was just all him. There's not a soul that could have withstood that.
Alexei, he has a pretty good chin. We've seen him take a lot of damage and keep coming forward. So when Lewis knocked him down initially, and it looked like he was trying to maybe go for a single leg or something like that, or just get back up to his feet, I thought maybe, just maybe, there was like a little bit of a chance.
For sure.
But you're fighting Derrick Lewis. He's got to have one of the hardest hits next to Francis. And so, there wasn't much he could do. Like, once he was on the ground there, Derrick just kept laying it on him. It was time to stop the fight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that was actually the third of three. I'm going to say the second of two kind of late Herb stoppages this night. There was one, the Beneil Dariush one I think was okay. There were two walk-away knockouts that Herb refed. One was the Beneil Dariush knockout, and he didn't step in right away, but Beneil walked away right away. He didn't really have to, so that was kind of okay. But there was another fight previously. I apologize for not remembering exactly who the fighters were, but there were three big shots landed in a row, three big right hands, and Herb seemed to be at the other side of the octagon. He seemed to be caught watching, and the guy was dropped, and it was a walk-away knockout, but it took Herb a solid 2-3 seconds to get over there, and it was uncomfortable. It seemed like it was going back to that last week, the Jai Herbert incident with Dan Hardy.
Yeah, had he not walked off with that knockout, how many unanswered strikes could that completely unconscious man have taken before Herb ran in there?
But I want to correct myself. It wasn't quite a walkaway knockout. It was like a big knockout. He then dropped like 2 or 3 unanswered strikes, and then got it by himself.
I was thinking of
that
spinning back fist knockout.
Yeah. But the other one, he actually got on top of him. He had 2 or 3 unanswered strikes, got off by himself, walked away, and then Herb got there. So he had time to get on the guy, punch him a few times, get off him, and then Herb was there.
That's shameful. A little shameful to see when the fighter is the one who kind of recognizes this has to stop, right?
I love Herb. I've always been a
great guy.
Herb fan.
Herb is, I still think he's one of the best refs. Maybe he's second guessing himself just because these incidents have been building up over the past couple cards. Maybe I think he's skilled enough that shouldn't be a factor, but who knows?
Yeah, I always think Goddard is the best in the business at this point, in my opinion. I think Goddard is just such a top A-class referee. Something I actually heard on Luke Thomas had, I don't know if it was a podcast or if it was a part of his radio show, but he was mentioning at one point, maybe a live stream, that they did a study on MLB umpires and how accurate they were at different stages of their career. And it turned out that it wasn't actually the guys that were there the longest that were the most accurate. It was actually around that 10 to 15 year range. So like that first 10 years or so, you're kind of learning, getting better and better. You actually have a peak around 10 to 15 years, maybe 20 years. And then you actually start to drop off, which is kind of interesting. Mm-hmm. So it almost gets me to start to wonder, maybe this is starting to happen to Herb. He's been around just so long. You didn't see that happen as much to John McCarthy because he moved into a commentator role instead of refereeing. But maybe Herb's just kind of out of his prime and needs to take some time away from the sport, just kind of reset his mind, get right back into it, and I'm sure he'll be amazing. Sometimes you need that reset.
It could be. It's tough to say after, a few bad days at the office whether or not we should be looking at. But those days at the office really mean a great deal for the physical health of these fighters. So yeah, I'm more likely to err on the side of caution for the fighters rather than Herb's career. If this pattern kind of continues over time, I wouldn't be against. I don't like the term suspension. I don't think that Herb should be getting in trouble for anything that he's doing. But if he's making, mistakes, they need to be rectified. And if that doesn't happen, then, we've got to move forward from there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to speak out of line, right? We're not referees. We none of us pretend to be referees.
Absolutely not.
And none of us can come anywhere close to the job that Herb can do. He is
right.
Of course, he is overall a great referee. He has an amazing track record. We're just kind of voicing concern for a couple of the stoppages that we've seen in the last couple of weeks, especially. Hopefully, just kind of a coincidence, a couple bad lucks in a row, and this kind of passes by.
Yeah. Let's just see what happens. Like I said, I just like to err on the side of the caution of the people getting punched in the head.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to something a bit more fun. What do you guys think should be next for the guys, for Lewis and Oleinik?
I want to see how Oleinik recovers from these head injuries that he is no doubt going to have, because he's an older guy.
Maybe give him some time. I can see an interesting one. Maybe Gustafsson.
Gustafsson for Oleinik?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You did, but you didn't just pair up Gustafsson with Verdum, who's, fantastic grappler. Another submission guy. And I wouldn't want it to end the same way. Not saying it would, but
give him a striker, kind of let him have a chance to show off his striking at the heavyweight division, see where he's at. Yeah, that's a good point. I just can't think of many guys to give him, because I was thinking for Lewis, Blades called him out, but to be honest, we all know, I think, how that's going to go. It would just be Curtis grinding him out in the ground. If it's a 3-round fight, it'll be that for 3 rounds. If it's a 5-round fight, maybe he'll gas out and Lewis will catch him, but I don't think it's a very exciting fight. I think Lewis versus Overeem is a fun fight.
Oh, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah. Actually, I really like the sound of that.
It's almost shocking to me they've never fought.
Really? They've never fought?
I don't think so. I can't think of a time they ever fought.
That's a fight for the fans.
Right? Well, how's it never happened? The other thought I had was we have a fantastic featured bout on next week's main card, which is Jairzinho Rozenstruik against JDS. Now, if JDS was to win, Lewis has fought JDS, and JDS did beat him. And did knock him out. However, this was before Lewis's kind of body transformation, before he kind of lost a lot of weight and been a lot more nimble. So maybe you can give him that rematch if JDS wins and say, okay, let's see if this new Lewis really is a new Lewis, or if he is going to get beaten by the same guys he did beforehand. Or if Rozenstruik won. If Rozenstruik won, that's a fantastic fight too.
I wouldn't mind that. I think that a rematch between JDS and Lewis would really kind of give us more of an idea of kind of champion potential between the two of them. And yeah, I mean, if you look back at Lewis's older fights from even just like 2 years ago, his movements, especially his kicks, look, like, I don't know what the word for it is, weird. They're kind of awkward. They're like not completely ineffective just because of the strength behind him, but like clearly they were unrefined entirely. Whereas you look tonight, I mean, look at that flying knee that he threw last night.
That was to the chest, by the way. He didn't actually clip him in the face. He hit him in the chest, and it was actually the right hand that put him down. So he knocked him off balance by just like the sheer, 265 pounds running at you.
He probably punctured his lung in the process.
Like stumbled back, and then as he stumbled back, hands down, that big right hand knocked him out or knocked him down.
His movement is just improved phenomenally since his last title shot.
Yeah, he was always explosive, but when he only has 265 pounds instead of 285 pounds to explode with, he's even better. And he actually says he doesn't want to come back until he's around 245, 250, which will be really nice. I think he'll be even better. That's really exciting.
In seeing that. I'm interested in seeing if he can really follow through and get down to that weight. That's if he does, that could be very interesting. And I figure all the heavyweight contenders right now really have to be wondering. I mean, it seems like the two most dangerous men in the world. I mean, they could, but they very likely are. I don't recall what Stipe has said, but I mean, everyone knows Cormier is going to retire. Is Stipe retiring after this bout?
We don't know. I don't think
we don't know,
but he hasn't said anything.
I think it's possible, at least within the next few years, that we see Stipe retire. And I think that's got to really, with both those guys out of the picture, that's got to light a huge fire under all the competitors in heavyweight. It's a little upsetting because, I mean, it'll light the fire because I'm pretty sure they all know that they aren't beating Cormier. I don't think anyone's beating Stipe either.
I disagree. I think that's a big statement to say. I think that
who do you think are their best?
I think Blades gives Stipe trouble. I think Ngannou 2.0 gives Stipe trouble. I think for sure.
How can we know with Ngannou 2.0 though? I mean, like it's the same as always. Every time he fights, it's over in an instant.
Yes, but I mean, but you look he still did land some big strikes on Stipe in that first fight before he got taken down, and Stipe hasn't had that same chin since. He's going to go through it. He got knocked out by DC right after that. He went through another war with DC right after that. He's about to fight DC again. I'm sure he's not going to get out unscathed. Even if he wins, forget whether or not he will, he's not going to get out of it untouched. DC is going to put some hands on him. And I think Ngannou has a lot better wrestling defense. Even when you look at that Cain Velasquez win, Velasquez got in on him, and he just used sheer strength to push him off and landed that uppercut and knocked him out. And maybe Stipe can steal the chin to put up with that uppercut. But Ngannou clearly has at least better defense. We don't know if he can go 5 rounds.
Yeah, that's fair.
But it's definitely better. It's definitely a different fight.
You know, you look at that Stipe Ngannou, that first fight, and also, I mean, like, yeah, the chin held up quite well. But once you got past that onslaught, I mean, he couldn't touch Stipe.
Ngannou is way more patient now.
That's true. I'd be very interested in that matchup.
Look how he fought Blades as well. He was a lot more patient. He waited for Blades to come in, and then he just unleashed that big right hand, barely caught Blades, put him out.
But he still, he started throwing those wild haymakers with his chin right out. I mean, he's a technical boxer's,
Who did he do that against? Who did he do that against? Rosenstrike. He's not scared of Rosenstrike taking him down. There's no chance Rosenstrike was going to take him down. So he can come in blitzing because the only fear he has is getting knocked out himself, and he knows he has an iron chin. In fact, Rosenstrike caught him with first a leg kick and then a nice right hook, or maybe it's check left hook rather. Caught him right on the chin, and Ngannou just walked right through it and just flailed and knocked him out. But against DC was saying when he watched it, I would have taken him down. Absolutely, he would have if he did that, but he wouldn't do that against DC.
I don't think Ngannou stands a chance against DC.
But no, Ngannou doesn't attack DC like that. Ngannou doesn't attack Stipe like that. When you have the wrestling threat, you fight for the wrestling threat. When you have just a guy that thinks he can knock you out that can't, you fight like he can't do anything to you.
I guess it remains to be seen, what'll happen. I'd be interested in a Stipe Ngannou rematch 100%. I don't know. I think that if I had to make my decision right now, I don't think Ngannou will get the better of Stipe, but it's not like it wouldn't be like a major in either direction. I mean, especially when you get these two guys at this weight class and these two guys.
Yeah, Adam, what do you think?
Happen. I'm not sure. I really think Francis has improved a lot over the past little while, and we'll come see next Saturday who's gonna walk home with the gold. I think there's a lot of like interesting matchups to be made there after Cormier retires, but I think Francis is a problem, and I think we're going to see. Hopefully he'll get the next title shot. But
Yeah, I mean, I want to talk about a bit later what we think should happen to the heavyweight division after this DC Stipe fight. We're going to get into that when we get into that actual fight. I want us to finish up on this card quickly because we've only actually gone through the main event. So let's go through
This is a
more
phenomenal card. We could talk endlessly about so many of the fights that happened last night. This is one of the best events that I've seen in a while.
And we have an outstanding stacked event next week, so we got a lot to go through. Let's go into that co-main. We had Chris Weidman making his comeback, the first fight back at middleweight after he got knocked out against Dom Reyes at light heavyweight back, I think it was in January or something. Oh, it must be last year. It must be last year, I think. Regardless, so he fought Omari Akhmedov. Decision win, won 29-28 on, I think, all judges' scorecards. Adam, I'll let you start on this one. What do you think of that win by Weidman?
Okay, I thought he fought a smart fight. He went back to his wrestling, which is actually the way that he came to getting his title shot against Anderson. He's a fantastic wrestler, and
All-American.
All-American wrestler, and he used it in his fights coming up, and he used it in this fight, which was smart. He didn't just try and stand in a strike with Omari. It looks like he has passed his prime. It's unfortunate. I love Weidman, but I think the best days of him are in his past. The first round was pretty good for Weidman. Leading into the second, Omari got a lot more control, and it looked like both fighters gassed right at the start of the second, which was quite surprising to me. And then in the third round, Weidman just looked less tired than Omari and was able to get some more control time. So it was a smart fight by Weidman, but at the end of it, I don't think that he should be. I don't think a title is somewhere in his future anytime soon, and maybe ever again. But
no,
it's nice to know he can still compete with the top 10 guys or so.
Ish. Was he 11?
Omari was 11. Omari was 11 coming in. And Weidman wasn't even ranked coming in. This is the first time Weidman, I think, has fought. By the way, I think this is the first time Weidman fought a fighter who was not ranked in the top 5 since he was champion.
His last few fights have been killers. So tonight, the betting odds, he was actually, I think that he was favored in the betting odds.
He was a minus initially. 160 favorite. He was a slight favorite, not huge, nothing crazy.
I was seeing a lot of comments that were, online that were saying, bet the house against Weidman because, he's clearly on a downward trajectory. But to be fair, we hadn't seen him fight anyone who wasn't an absolute murderer up until, right now. And what we saw when he fights someone who, is not a can, but who's not,
elite,
elite top 5, he fights more like a journeyman. He didn't show anything that tells me that he is capable of taking that belt again, especially not from, what do you think would happen if he tried to fight like Apollo Costa? What do you think's going to happen there?
It looked like he survived the fight is what happened.
Yeah,
that's a good way to put it.
That first round, it wasn't even he won that first round, but it wasn't that dominant. The striking, it actually looked to me like Omari was getting the better of him in the boxing. Omari had better boxing than him. Weidman just had some control time, but the control time isn't that influential if you don't do that much with it. And he didn't get a lot of damage on. It tired him out. And then that second round, he had nothing. Omari just put it on him. And then you heard Ray Longo yelling, giving him shit at the end of that second round. He was saying, I don't care. Suck it up. Let's go. But get this fight. Take him down. But that's all he did. He just took him down and just laid on him and just survived that last round. He squeaked out. He edged out a win, but he did not show anything, as Noah, as you said, that shows that he can really beat a top 5 fighter. Right? He really looks like he should stay in that top 10. I think if he's gonna continue in the UFC, I would put him against maybe like a Brad Tavares, another guy in that top 10, top 12 kind of range who's kind of past his prime. Maybe if you want to give him a guy like an Ian Heinisch, but I think Heinisch brutalizes him. I don't think there's much for him left in the UFC.
I'd like to see him fight Rockhold again.
Ooh,
why not?
That's interesting. Another guy maybe passes.
Will Rockhold fight again?
He said he's wanted to fight. He's been helping DC in this last week leading up to his fight.
Yeah, I do recall. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
I guess that could be a good fight for the both of them.
I think a Silva fight would be great. I would see Anderson Silva versus Chris Weidman 3 at this point in their careers. 43 or 42-year-old Silva. He's like, there's nothing left for him to prove. There's nothing left for Weidman to prove. But like, hey, this is like Weidman. Why wouldn't he take it? It's another good fight for him, or maybe not a good fight, but for Silva, he can finally right that wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, eventually. Yeah, I mean, both those losses were dominant for Weidman, but yeah, it's been a long time, and this is clearly we're not looking at the same Weidman that once was. It's
or the
just,
same Silva.
It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Oh yeah, or the same Silva.
And if
I think from Silva's more recent fights, it was the last Silva fight Adesanya, or has he fought since then?
I think it was Cannonier.
Oh yeah.
When he got leg kick knocked out, leg kick TKO'd by Cannonier in the end of the first round.
Yeah.
But I think what's really good is that you don't want neither of these guys. I wouldn't feel comfortable putting either of these guys against a Paulo Costa, against a Yoel Romero, against even a Whitaker, a Till, right? You don't want to do that.
I don't feel comfortable putting most people against Costa or Romero.
Especially these guys who are, but the thing is with these guys that they can't fight a guy that's not ranked. They can't fight an up-and-comer because their name is too big for it. They have nothing to gain from it. And they might just get eaten because that young, hungry lion always feasts on the old and the weak. And so this is they both have, there's a storyline there. It's a safe fight, quote unquote, in terms of like, you don't lose much if you lose this fight. And it's just kind of a legacy. It's an old story. It's kind of like that Little Nog Shogun 3 fight. This is a good one for the ages.
Yeah. And I think that would even be maybe a nice fight to, maybe come to a close on their careers.
Exactly.
At least Silva. I don't want to see Silva go in there again. He's getting, like, real old, and he does not have, like, he didn't have the old man skills that you see some guys like, of course his name escapes me. Who's that old fuck heavyweight from the old days? Well, there you have it. Who am I thinking? So, who?
No, sorry. What's his name?
He was like former champion. God, how I feel like a real piece of shit.
The guy
I can't remember.
The guy that came back, right?
I think so. God. Okay, I'm just gonna go heavyweight UFC.
Randy Couture. Yeah, Randy Couture.
Randy Couture.
Yeah, I said Couture.
Jesus,
I Couture.
I'm a moron. I feel like I should have just said, like, the guy who was in the Expendables.
Randy Couture is a different type of fighter than Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva, he relies on reflex and technique.
Yeah.
That's the thing that goes away first.
But like for the age that he's getting to, he's not displaying like a level of skill where I feel comfortable watching him get hurt or allowing himself to convince himself that he can put himself in that situation. Set himself a lot there, real quick.
He hasn't looked that bad. He looked okay. He looked good against Silva, against Adesanya.
He did look
right. I don't think he's
there.
I don't think he's as washed as you might think, but I still think a Weidman fight would be good. Let's move on. We had one more fight I wanted to talk about on this main card from last night. We had the Neil Dariush getting a crazy spinning back. I would almost want to call it a spinning back forearm knockout against Scott Holtzman. Benil Dariush, we said this on last week's podcast. Dariush is not being pushed enough. This guy, his last loss was against Alex Hernandez, and before that it was Edson Barboza. Aside from that, the guy has won almost every fight in the UFC. He's something like 4-2, I think, in his last 6, maybe 5-2.
Phenomenal record.
Phenomenal
record.
Great guys he's beaten, and he always puts on amazing fights. He knocked out Drew Dober, or he beat Drew Dober. He had a crazy fight against Ricard Close back in March. That was on the Adesanya versus Romero card, in which he got basically knocked out again. And he was against the fence, about to lose, throws a big haymaker, catches Ricard Close, and chases him down, and he gets the knockout in that second round. It was crazy, and then comes back with this an outstanding performance. I don't know why he didn't
God,
get a
that was
performance bonus from
great.
this.
That
He's
was
not
fun.
being pushed. They got to push this dude. What's going on?
Mm-hmm. Does he just not market well? The UFC seems, I mean, they are extremely interested right now in just fighters who are marketable. And I mean, look no further than Figueiredo versus Garbrandt. But that was fun to watch. I can't think of why they wouldn't want to push this guy further.
Look, he's a fun guy to watch, but he was also a good talker. I thought his post-fight interview was fun, was interesting. He's a good interviewer. What's wrong?
Yeah.
Hopefully, this will give him the push that he needs.
I think it has to. I can't see them getting away with not giving this guy like some more high-level competition.
Yeah, he's on a 4-fight winning streak. I had some ideas of who to put him up against. I had two okay ideas, and one idea I think this one really gets me excited. So some okay ones, I think Ally Quinta would be a good fight. He's kind of had a bad little while. I think we had him ranked 11 coming in. What was Dariush?
He's 14.
14, but Ally Quinta is 7th. So that would be a decent matchup. I think he should go up a couple levels on the with a win here. You should go to like.
I hate to jump in, but just out of respect, I believe according to the UFC website, Paul Felder is currently number 7. Yes. Quinta is number 9.
Okay, sorry. Quinta is number 9. That would be a decent fight.
I couldn't let someone disrespect Paul Felder.
No worries. Paul Felder was actually my other idea, but I think what most excites me. Maybe you think it's pushing him too far. I think against Dan Hooker. I think that fight would be an outstanding fight. Both these guys hit hard. They're both a lot of feints. They're really quick. Darius his quickness against Felder is not quite as fast, but his technique is better. That would be really exciting. I think that's a great fight.
Mm-hmm. Oh, what about Oliveira?
But Oliveira is coming off a win. That's the thing. So Oliveira, isn't he?
Yes,
I think so. Yeah, he was last.
So Oliveira is not going to want to fight the number 14, number 10 ranked guy. He's going to want to fight a top 5, right? So maybe Oliveira versus Dan Hooker, or Oliveira versus a Dustin Poirier or Tony Ferguson, one of those guys. Mm-hmm. I just don't think Oliveira wants to move down.
Gotta be.
Though it would be a great fight too. Mm-hmm. But he won't. I don't think he'll fight a name that low in the rankings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Dariush against a Felder. Or an Iaquinta would be better because when you look, Oliveira can really the only people that make sense for him to fight are Hooker, Ferguson, or Poirier, and it seems like Ferguson is kind of gunning for Poirier.
I hope so.
So, I guess we'll see how that goes, and then of course number 4th on the rankings is Conor McGregor, and it's like
I could see
he's a write-off at this point.
They could put Carlos Diego Ferreira against Oliveira. That would be okay because Diego Ferreira is coming off it's coming off a win against Anthony Pettis in a first round rear naked choke, which was very impressive. So he's on a big winning streak. He's on his way up, just like Oliveira. And the winner of that would probably, in my opinion, earn the loser of a Tony versus Poirier with a chance to break into that top 5 and fight for either the belt or like a Gaethje or whoever's around at the time.
Mm-hmm. It's tough for me to look at the lightweight, like the top 15, and some of these matchups. Like some of the skill level between these guys. I mean, lightweight is, it's unbelievable right now how good these guys are. Every single one of them. The top 5 of that division is potentially the best top 5 of any division in history. When you think every single one of them is champion quality.
You got Khabib, Justin, Tony. Khabib, Justin, Dustin Poirier, Tony Ferguson, and Conor McGregor. Those are your best 5 guys in the division. So that's your top 4 and your champion. Yeah. Name a better top 5 in any division.
Collectively, some of the most dangerous people who have ever lived.
It is insanity. We had one more big fight. We actually had a fight card. Bellator had a fight card this past weekend. And in that main event, we had Michael Chandler knocking out Benson Henderson, the first time in almost 6 years that Benson Henderson has been knocked out. That was quite an exciting thing. What's next for Michael Chandler? That was the last fight on his Bellator contract. He hasn't fought in the UFC, and there's been a lot of talk about, hey, this guy, everyone wants to see this guy fight in the UFC. Do you guys think that is in his future?
I hope so. I'd love to see him fight. He's a great fighter. He's a great wrestler. The finish was beautiful. It was he switched stances and hit him with an overhand left, and then just finished the fight from there. I don't know how open the UFC would be to having him in the sport, in a promotion.
Why not?
Maybe if he's gunning for the same amount of money that he's getting from Bellator, I don't know if the UFC would be willing to pay that same amount. I hope they would, because he's a great fighter, and I think he would mix in well. And in the lightweight division, I mean, come on, so many great matchups for him.
But look at Justin Gaethje. That was kind of what happened with Justin Gaethje. He was a champion. What was it? World Series of Fighting, I think.
Yeah.
So he was a World Series of Fighting champion, and he came into the UFC. And his first fight, I believe, was that the Eddie Alvarez or the Justin Poirier fight? I think it was no, it was Michael Johnson. He comes in against Michael Johnson, makes his debut. Yeah. He was being paid already big money, and I think his second fight in the UFC was a main event against Dustin Poirier, where he lost. Then his third fight was a main against Eddie Alvarez, and then he had a main event where he knocked out Vic. And right, so he comes in and immediately he's a huge star, making amazing money. He was paid six figures right off the bat. He wasn't starting off at 15 and 15 like these other guys. I think the UFC might be willing to give this guy some money, especially considering, like Gaethje, maybe he's not quite as much of a blood and guts fighter as that World Series of Fighting version of Justin Gaethje, but he definitely is a violent guy, an exciting guy to watch. He has a name. He has some hype behind him. I wouldn't be shocked to see the UFC give him a chance, especially since they like giving guys a chance when they're really successful in Bellator, and then just kind of starting to edge towards the end of their career, kind of dropping out of their prime. Guys like our Ben Askren, right? When they can kind of show, hey, these guys that were champions and dominant and killers in those other promotions, look at them get destroyed in the UFC. Those other promotions don't even stack up near to the UFC, so they're gonna give them the worst matchup they possibly can.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm. Win-win for them.
Yeah, I think it would be really hyped to see him against Tony or see him against a Justin. Really, if Justin was to lose that Nurmagomedov fight, bring him in against Justin. That would hype everyone up. Or Poirier, of course.
Yeah. Before Kamaru switched camps, I know him and Michael Chandler and Kamaru train or used to train at the same camp.
Is he with Ali?
I'm not sure.
Because I know he is with he does fight with Cejudo's coaches, right? And Albarracin, what's his name? Albarracin, the coach. Cejudo's coach. Cejudo and Costas. Yeah, Captain Eric Albarracin.
Yeah.
So I know he fights with him. He trains with him. And I know they are. I mean, obviously Cejudo's with Ali, and so isn't I think Costa's with Ali too, right?
Yeah, Costa's with Ali as well.
So I wouldn't be surprised if Chandler was as well, if the other two guys under Eric were with Ali. And I think that would.
You know what? Because Eric also trains the other Bellator, the lightweight champion in Bellator. Pitbull.
I think Chandler's with Albarracin. Maybe I got him confused with Pitbull.
Yeah. No, I think you got them confused because I know Eric trains Pitbull.
Okay, where does he? Let's see who his manager is. I can't figure it out. Either way, whatever. I think he might. I think it would be interesting to see him fight in the UFC. It would be really nice to see it, but we'll see that. We'll see if that happens. But speaking of Bellator to UFC conversions, we actually had the exact opposite happen just a few days ago. This one came as a shock to me. Corey Anderson actually had multiple fights left on his UFC contract. Ariel Helwani reported that they actually ended up terminating. He asked for his contract to be terminated. They obliged, and he signed with Bellator, which I thought was a shocker to me. He's a light heavyweight. He was on a big winning streak. He beat Johnny Walker. He was given a big main event chance where he might have gotten a title shot if he had won against Jan Blachowicz and got knocked out. And instead of kind of climbing his way back up like I expected him to, he jumped ship to Bellator. Thoughts on this, guys?
it's hard to have thoughts on. I mean, it's hard because we can't really see what's going on in the background of these deals, and I feel like, from all accounts, it seems like dealing with the UFC behind the scenes is like pulling teeth. So it's surprising to me that they let him out of his contract just, like that. I'd love to know the finer details of that deal. I'm a little upset though. I did enjoy watching him fight. That win over Johnny Walker was. I think we watched that together. We were super hyped up about Walker.
What?
And then he just came in and walked right through him. So
Walkered right through him.
I'm a little disappointed because personally, I'm not. I know you guys, follow things a little more closely than I do. I think there's much less of a chance of me catching him fighting in Bellator, which is a shame because I did enjoy him. What I wonder is, and Adam, maybe you're have a little more experience. I wonder is there like a certain point where you're fighting people and you get to can you get to a level in the UFC where you lose to someone and you just kind of realize, wow, there's just no way I'm going to overcome this mountain. I've got to take a step back and try something different. Like, I don't know why would he jump ship on that UFC contract? I have no idea.
The reason I think he jumped ship was because he's been pretty vocal that he's had a lot of problems with the UFC. He was gunning for the Jones fight, I want to say a year ago or so, and they were giving him a lot of pushback, saying, we're not making this fight happen. Fight a couple more fights and then we'll talk. But he's been super vocal that he's not happy with the company, and so I think that's why they just let him go.
There's never any room for suspense. It always just comes down to the UFC will always treat their fighters like garbage.
No, I disagree though, because here's the thing. What he had 3 wins. He beat Pat. He had 2 losses in a row against Jimmy Manuwa and Ovince St. Preux. Then he beat Patrick Cummins, Glover Teixeira, Ilir Latifi. At that point, he's calling for a title shot. 3 wins, still isn't enough, and they gave it, I think, to at that point to Anthony Smith, or it was either him or Thiago Santos at the time. Those guys clearly deserved it more than him. So then they give him Johnny Walker, and he beats him. Now he's still asking for it again, and I still don't think he deserved it.
No, beating Johnny Walker doesn't give you a title
because
shot.
Dom Reyes, because at that point Dom Reyes had knocked out way bigger guys. So Dom Reyes clearly deserved it over him. So now they said, okay, fine. You and Blachowicz are clearly the number 1 contenders here. Fight each other. Winner gets a title shot. That was fair. And he got knocked out. And to your point, Noah, I don't actually think that was the case. I don't think it's a hump too big to get over, because it's not like it was a long fight where he tried to take him down 6-7 times, couldn't do it, and was just getting pieced up on the feet. That didn't happen. He went in for a leg kick and just got timed on a hard left hand or hard right hand and just got knocked out in 1 punch. That shit kind of happens in fighting and is always going to happen. Maybe he looked at it like, I just lost. It's going to take another 2 years to climb back and get another title shot, which is true. Maybe that is a thing he wants a fresh start. But I don't think it was a hump too high.
Yeah.
I think it might have been more just frustration with the UFC. He doesn't feel like he's getting the push promotionally that he wants, which I disagree with.
I guess at this point I'm inclined to agree with you guys.
Adam, sorry, you were saying something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that since he was having issues with the UFC, and now that he got knocked out against Jan, he realized maybe it's gonna be a long road back to a title shot. And if I'm able to jump into Bellator, there might be a foreseeable chance for him to get a title shot there quicker than in the UFC.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just wonder what the UFC was thinking of him if they were, just so willing. How many fights do you have left on his contract? Do we know?
We don't know, but multiple fights.
There's multiple, yeah.
Multiple.
So, the fact that they're all too willing to just let him go, and I don't think historically it's usually that easy.
He must have been giving them trouble too.
Yeah.
It must have been a mutually bad relationship, and they just said, you know what? You want out, we want out. Fuck it, cut the ties. It's done.
Yep.
In other news, though, we did have 2 big fights, actually 3 big fights announced. We'll start off with the 2 fights that were booked together. This is going to be UFC, I believe it's 254 or 255. I don't even remember at this point because they're skipping numbers, and I think they have 2 two in October, but they've only actually announced the Khabib one, but they're looking at another one. I don't even know what's happening anymore because I think the Khabib one is 254, but this DC one is 252. There's 253 is Adesanya. Regardless, okay, 255 is going to be headlined by Davison Figueiredo defending his flyweight title for the very first time against Cody Garbrandt, moving down from 135, the former 135 champion. And we're going to have a co-main event of that recent winner, Jennifer Maia, facing off against 125-pound champion Valentina Shevchenko. Let's start off with that main event. What do you guys think of that Cody versus Figueiredo fight? Adam, let's start with you this time.
It's a great matchup. I'm excited to see it. I think they were inclined to give Garbrandt the title shot because he's a big name, and there's not a lot of huge names in the flyweight division. So, we'll give this division some push using a guy like Cody. I don't know if he's totally deserving of a title shot after one win over Assunção.
Definitely not.
Right, yeah. So, but again, I see why it's a great marketing matchup.
Yeah, I mean, look at the one thing that everyone's mentioning is like next to, I mean, just about any comparable fighter. I mean, look no further than Garbrandt's Instagram followers. It's miles ahead of most people in the sport just
any flyweight
because of his personality.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be less justifiable to make this fight if yeah, he's a phenomenal fighter. He's an incredible talent. He's somebody who at any point, like I could see him on like say a Weidman today. I can see Garbrandt holding a title at some point. I still think I don't know. I like the matchup, but it was absolutely the more influential part of it is Garbrandt's following, and the fact that it's a big big money to put him up there for a title and to fast track him. But at the end of the day, it's going to be a great fight. The fans are going to like it. I think that Garbrandt loses. I don't want to say like so easily, like it's nothing, but I don't really see a path for Garbrandt through Figueiredo. I think that we're going to see the usual Garbrandt's going to take some hits, some bad ones, possibly worse than he's used to initially because Figueiredo is like a monster. He's going to get pissed off like he always does because on top of his regular training regimen, that man needs a therapist. He's going to get pissed off. He's going to see red. He's going to throw caution to the wind. And every single person who fights him knows that this is a possibility. And Figueiredo is going to take advantage of that so easily.
Yeah. So
Garbrandt's going to explode.
So I think there's a few things that we could touch on there. Starting off with just why it was booked. I think there's really only two major contenders right now in the flyweight division that can justify a title shot. You have Brandon Moreno and you got Askar Askarov. I believe they actually fought against each other to a draw in each of their second last fights, and then they each have had
you
a
are
fight
correct.
since then. And Askarov won on that against Alexander Pantoja on that same card.
Won his last two. They both won their last two.
Yeah, so he just won against Pantoja on that card with Figueiredo and where Figueiredo knocked out what's his name, Benavidez. But regardless, I think that the reason that they're booking, as you guys said, is the money fight. But it's not only that. Moreno's fast. Moreno's a fun guy to watch. Askar Askarov's a lot more of that Dagestani wrestling style, right? He's fully deaf. I don't know if you guys knew this. This guy's he's actually a deaf fighter. He goes and he just grabs you and grinds you down. He doesn't strike too much. And when you look at Cody Garbrandt, he's all flash, he's all flair, he's all big power and just violence. Look at Figueiredo, same thing. Cody's a little bit more wild. Figueiredo's a little bit more stalking. He's almost a Yoel Romero of the 125-pound division, if that makes sense. He walks you down, he just stalks you down, and he doesn't throw very much, but he throws accurate and he throws hard. And he goes and he throws to knock you out.
It's like the Terminator.
So I think that as you're saying, there's a bit of that name draw. You're going to now draw attention because Cody Garbrandt draws attention to this fight, which of course builds up anyone he's fighting against as well. but then it's also just such a hype
yeah.
fight. It's such a
Good for
fun,
Figueiredo.
exciting fight that when you see Figueiredo knock out Cody this violently, everyone's going to get really excited about Figueiredo and want to watch him again. So I think it's a combination of the stylistic matchup as well as why they chose Garbrandt to move down. But when you look at his last 3 fights, he lost against TJ. He lost the rematch against TJ. He lost against Pedro Munoz in a bad fight where he was winning. And as you were saying, got hit, got angry, and tried to come back. But he had that, and then he had that one win against the Sun Sao. And that doesn't earn a title fight, especially not in another division. So yeah, I think that Garbrandt is going to get knocked out in the first or maybe the second round. I don't see it getting past that second.
Yeah.
The co-main event.
I think he'll make it past the first. He'll make it past the first.
Okay, interesting. The co-main event to this card, we have, as I mentioned, Jennifer Maia taking on Valentina Shevchenko. To be honest, I don't think there's a ton to talk about on this one.
No.
She's going to go do Valentina things. Jennifer Maia doesn't stand a chance. The question is, how long do you think it'll take Shevchenko to finish Maia? I'm going to say end of the second round. 4 minutes into the second round.
I was going to say one or 2 rounds. She's sitting at the top for a long time. There's none of the contenders in the flyweight division, show potential for her. So it's not a question.
No. I'm embarrassed to say it, but I think this might actually be the first Shevchenko fight that I actually see live. So I'm excited for my own milestone.
You saw the Jessica Ai fight live, didn't you? Where she knocked Jessica Ai out with that head kick, and one of the most violent head kicks I've seen in a long time. That was like when Crow Cup got knocked out.
My memory hasn't been so good ever since I drank that thermometer, so I can't recall. But I'll have to watch the clip. But either way, I'm excited for the fight. It goes without saying she's probably going to win.
All right, we got one more piece of news I want to go into before we go into next week's crazy UFC 252 card. And that is the Marlon Moraes fight being booked against Corey Sandhagen. Not Cody, Corey. The reason I think this is so influential, so after Peter Yan won that 135-pound belt, everyone thought immediately it was a no-brainer that we're going to give Aljo Sterling that next title shot. And Dana White would never commit to it. And I was thinking, who could Dana be talking about? Who could you give it again? Give a title shot above Aljo? And there's only 2 names that really sprung into mind. One was maybe Cody. It wasn't justifiable, but they could maybe spring him over just because he has that big name.
Right.
Or I thought Marlon Moraes, because they did just give Aldo the title shot. And technically Marlon actually beat Aldo in that last fight. So if you're going to give Aldo the fight over Marlon, maybe you got to give Marlon the fight as well. He's also a big name contender. He's an exciting matchup. But now he's booked up against Sandhagen. So now I don't see anybody that can steal that 135-pound title shot from Aljo, which is great news to me. I really hope this means Aljo's going to get that shot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think that there's any justification in not giving him that shot. I think that obviously it's just Dana who doesn't want to give him the shot. They obviously have their problems, but I think that at a certain point, he's no longer going to just be able to say, well, we'll see what happens. I don't know who's going to fight. At a certain point, people are going to have to say, there's every reason in the world for Aljo to get this fight. You have really no legitimate reasons to withhold this fight from him. Unless you plan on withholding it forever, what's going to happen? If not now, when? So, but I think that Jan calling out Aljo is really what's going to make the difference. I think that Dana's going to just let the fight happen, and I don't think we're going to see him saying a great deal about it.
If not now, when? If not Aljo, who?
Yeah. There's not many other options, and the matchup is made, and there's history between both of them. They've been talking a lot online. Like, it's time.
It's okay. It's a biblical reference. Went right over your head, so that's all right.
I'm excited for that fight. I don't know. I'd have a hard time calling it. I think I want to see Aljo with that belt. He's, how can you not like the guy, and he's such an entertaining fighter to watch. But Jan also just gives off this terrifying energy that so few fighters that give me this energy of just being a killer.
He's calm. He's comfortable in there.
It's that calmness. It's that extreme calmness. It's that I don't have to show any excitement. I already know what's going to happen. I already know that I'm going to win. So let's just get it over with.
Adam, who do you see in that one though?
I want Aljo, and I think he can get the job done. He has like some of the best BJJ out there in that division, and I think if the combination of it getting to the ground with Jan, he used to striking a lot in the Aldo fight, and it didn't go to the ground too much. But if it did, I mean, Aldo has phenomenal. Aljo has great potential there.
Yeah, I think Aljo is going to try to go for the submission. I think he's going to start strike with him a bit. I think Aljo has that kickboxing that can keep up at least a little bit with Jan for this beginning. If they kickbox forever, Jan will pick him apart. Jan will eventually knock him out. But he can stay on the feet for long enough to not be desperate in the takedown. He can stay on the feet, I think, long enough that he can mix in the takedowns, and that's how you end up being successful in them, right? If they know it's coming, it's not going to work. But if they're worried about the striking as well, that makes the takedowns that much more effective, makes the striking that much more effective as well. And I think he can. Jan has great takedown defense. I think he will be able to take him down. We'll see who can scramble better, and if he's able to keep him down and actually use that BJJ. I don't think Jan's going to try to entertain that. I think Jan's going to try to scramble to his feet. And with his training at Tiger Muay Thai in Thailand, they have actually some very underrated scrambling ability at that gym. So I would be surprised to see if Aljo can hold him down for a while, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him get his back. I wouldn't be surprised to see him kind of jump for a triangle or jump for a guillotine or something like that, or try to pull guard.
Just looking at the Sandhagen fight, I mean, he just jumped on his back, got the backpack, and sunk in the rear naked.
Yeah, so I see that kind of submission coming. I don't see a takedown grind out and figure out a submission through a grind. I just don't see that happening. I think it has to be a lot more sneaky. You gotta jump something.
It's gonna be quick. It's gonna be quick, and it's gonna be it's just gonna happen.
And I think a guy with those long limbs, those skinny long limbs, he's gonna be. That's why he's so successful at these things, right? You can get a lot of leverage, and that skinniness can really slide in wherever you need to. So I think that's part of his success. All right, let's now get into the real fun. We have a crazy UFC 252 card coming up next week, Saturday, August 15th, in Las Vegas, Nevada, in the small cage in the Apex. The small cage, 25 instead of 30 feet, so that is influential. Let's start off with our obviously massive main event. We got the trilogy, Stipe Miocic versus Daniel Cormier. I'm actually going to start off with a bit of a different question than you might expect. I'm not going to actually start off with a prediction. My question here is the winner of this fight the greatest heavyweight of all time?
Yes.
Who wants to start with that? You can just go.
Yes. Yes. No doubt in my mind. This is the I mean, I'm obviously not as well versed in some of the old school someone's going to come in and fucking throw like Emelianenko at me and like kick my ass, but I really don't see, at least in the UFC. Yes, with the UFC, no doubt these are the two best heavyweights of all time going against each other. You're getting number one and number two in this fight, and I don't even know if you could say number one and number two, because it is I was going to say it is very even, but if I recall, I think that Cormier was, at least in the last fight, he was absolutely ahead the entire time of Stipe. And
up until
in the last fight, I think he was ahead. I think that, but it's so close that, it's like either one of them at any given day could be the number one best of all time. But, I don't see anyone who can really stand up to them. I mean, we can say all day long, oh, well, throw them in there with some of these old Pride guys in their prime and see what happens. But, styles evolve. Fighters are generally better now than they were back in the day. I absolutely think that these are the two best and most dynamic heavyweights of all time. These guys can do so much. They're so much less one-dimensional than some of the older guys as well. Yeah, no doubt. This is for the best heavyweight fighter of all time. And even if it's not like factually, for the public, this is the best. People will be saying that whoever the winner is the best of all time.
Adam?
Yeah, I would agree. They both accomplished so much. Stipe's defended the belt more than any other heavyweight. Daniel, of course, 2-division champion. So they both have a lot of credit behind them, and so it's not a question. This will be for who is the best heavyweight in the UFC.
For best heavyweight in the UFC of all time, I think that maybe it's a little bit better. You can argue a little bit more. I'm a little bit hesitant if DC wins to label him the greatest UFC heavyweight of all time. The reason why is because the light heavyweight accolades are incredible. And call him one of the greatest fighters of all time, absolutely. But to me, it seems like he hasn't fought enough UFC heavyweight fights to have that title. Even though he might be very successful, if you take away the Stipe fights, he really doesn't have almost anything. Yeah, he had some fights beforehand in Strikeforce, and he was very successful there. But when you look at the reign, I think Stipe has better names than him. Stipe also has the record for the most defenses, or the most sequential title defenses in the UFC heavyweight division. It's almost that argument of, okay, well, Max Holloway beat Jose Aldo, so now Max Holloway is the best featherweight of all time.
It's MMA math. It's all
Max Holloway is better than Jose Aldo. I won't disagree, but as an all-timer in that division, he doesn't have the same accomplishments. I don't think DC has the same accomplishments that Stipe might have in the end. But it's kind of, I think you can give it to him. I just don't think it's undisputed by any means. Assuming that DC wins. If Stipe wins, I think it might be a little bit better.
Yeah, I understand what you mean.
Stipe would cement him.
Right. But to use a bit of MMA math, if Stipe was, if he won this fight and we were to call him the greatest the greatest heavyweight in the UFC, then if Daniel were to beat Stipe, you might as well call him greatest heavyweight in the UFC.
Well, think about this then. What if Stipe wins this? He's the greatest heavyweight of all time. Then John Jones decides, I'm going to move up to heavyweight, fight Stipe, beat Stipe, and then never fights in the heavyweight division again. Is John Jones the greatest heavyweight of all time with that one fight and that one win over Stipe? Because if Stipe was the greatest?
Well, in that case, yeah, there's a lot of more unanswered questions. But I mean, we don't have as much evidence of Lewis fighting against other UFC heavyweights. But I mean,
DC has 4 fights. DC, after this fight, will have 4 fights, and 3 of them were against the same guy. He'll have choked out Derrick Lewis and then fought Stipe 3 times.
Who he made look like a chump. Who he made look like a chump. Who we don't frequently see.
You know who else made
to look like a chump?
Lewis almost lost to Ilir Latifi. Lewis almost lost to a bunch of guys that he had some close decisions out against a few guys. Lewis isn't that incredible. It's not that I'm not saying he's a slouch by any means.
He was entirely nullified.
Look, Overeem.
He had nothing.
Overeem would beat Lewis in my opinion. Rosenstrike would beat Lewis. Ngannou, I don't think that last fight was a real thing about Ngannou. Real Ngannou would beat Lewis. The fact that Stipe beat Ngannou like he did, he knocked out Verdum moving backwards. He knocked out JDS. He knocked out Overeem. I think he knocked out both of them. He beat both JDS and he beat Overeem. Those names don't compare to one Derrick Lewis fight. I'm sorry. And then you take the Stipe wins for DC. You can say that DC wins for Stipe.
I guess I hadn't realized just how little DC had fought at heavyweight, just considering how UFC. Prolific his name is.
He fought in Strikeforce. Sure. He did fight in Strikeforce.
Here's what would, I mean, this is kind of counterintuitive, but here's what would cement DC as the greatest heavyweight for me. He beats Stipe, the UFC throws him a ton of money, and they say, you're fighting John Jones at heavyweight.
Or Ngannou. And either of them. If he beat either of them, then I would agree. I don't want to see it though. I need I personally need DC to retire after this, win or lose. But if he wins, I don't want to see the Jones fight. Don't do it. Yes, you'll get $10 million for it, but I don't want to see him come and have his career defined by those losses.
Yeah, I think honestly, at this point, DC has the money and he has a secure career, I think, for the rest of his life within the industry. I don't know how much money you could throw at him to fight John Jones again. I think he's sure, but DC is a man who more than anything in the world cares about his legacy. I mean, money talks, yes. And so, we can see what happens. I think it would be an awful decision for DC. And I think you guys would agree for DC. I think it would be an awful decision to take a Jones fight again. Go through that. Like, forget the fight, just the experience of having to do that again. That's got to take years off of your life. I mean, like, to deal with a guy like Jones, just in general, deal with the heat that comes not even just with him, from the entire like MMA community, from the entire John Jones fan base,
which doesn't exist as much anymore. But to your point about him caring about his legacy, I would actually argue that might be a reason he would come back. Unfortunately,
right.
That competitor spirit and that competitive spirit is never going to be fully extinguished. And when you have that, when someone says, "Hey, that one guy that you were the only guy you were never able to beat, the one guy, you now have a chance to go out beating him and erase everyone's doubt of you. And now you really are the greatest of all time. If you were able to go and beat Jones at heavyweight and beat that, now you're the greatest heavyweight of all time, maybe the greatest fighter of all time, the only guy to ever beat John Jones. Yeah. Like, that would redeem everything. And I don't think he could do it, unfortunately. Well, he could. I don't think he will if he goes for it.
At heavyweight, there is more of a question mark next to whether he could do it. I mean, Jones himself has said, and I mean, well, this was years in the past, and now with him being more willing to go up to heavyweight, who knows where his opinion is, but he's made it very clear, I won't fight DC at heavyweight. Heavyweight is DC's place. I will not fight him.
I think he said he'd want more money for it. He actually said a few things. He's gone back and forth. He has said I won't do it. Then he said, maybe I'll do it. He's gone back and forth. If he's willing to go up to fight Ngannou, he's willing to go up and fight DC.
And whether or not he fights again anyways.
Yeah.
Right.
See what happens there.
Yeah, although I would like DC to stay retired and, finish on top if he wins this fight.
Yeah.
There's still a part of me that would love to see that fight. And Dana said something in an interview that if a fighter is talking about retirement, it's probably time for them to retire. And he says that when he hears DC talking about it, that's the one fighter that he thinks should stay in the fight game, which I don't totally disagree with. Like, DC is obviously one of the best fighters in the world, and I still think he can compete with the best guys. And, he is getting old, so maybe it is time to consider retirement and just, finish on top after beating Stipe, if that happens this Saturday. But, there is potential to finally fulfill your the legacy and beat John Jones. So
I don't know. It's just like if you beat Stipe and you get that heavyweight championship back, you prove to the world you are better than Stipe. You have that beautiful fairy tale moment. Just ride off, dude. You have so much money coming in. You have your legacy is safe. It's under lock and key. Even the losses that you have are both under question from the steroid use. Like, you're safe. If you go, you got to put that all on the line again. And if you lose that fight, you lose all that shine, all that hype, all that legacy. You're no longer in the running for greatest of all time anymore. If you lose to John Jones at heavyweight, that's gone. At least here the question remains. I don't like it, but maybe that's just the non-competitor spirit, right? I just would rather see him be safe. I don't want him to gamble it.
Yeah.
Who do you guys see winning this fight? Who do you guys see winning this trilogy?
I think DC. I think that in both fights, I think that DC in general showed that he can perform in a more dominant fashion. I think those gut punches have been a problem for DC, in the past. So I think it's a clear weakness of his that he needs to work on. But in the last fight, until Stipe was managing to get those like liver punches in repeatedly. Ooh, so many liver punches. It really makes me cringe to even think about it. I think that if I recall, and it was a long time ago, but if I recall, I remember very clearly thinking, oh yeah, DC's got this. He's got him in every moment. He's got this. Right up until that moment when I remember getting scared, seeing him just eating these shots and thinking, just how many of those can he really take? And we saw, he can take quite a few, but he can't take an infinite amount of these punches.
Yeah.
But right up until then, he was winning. And I think that he will win this fight.
Mm-hmm. It's a tough fight to call. I'm leaning towards DC, also mostly because I want him to win and finish on top. But I think that this fight is it's very important to him, and he's training very, very hard, and I think that he can get the job done.
Yeah, I'm going to lean DC as well, and I think also, just like you were just mentioning, there's a little bit of bias there. I want DC to win.
Mm-hmm.
There are a few things that concern me. There are a few things that do actually concern me. So first of all, like I don't know why, I just have this sneaky suspicion that Stipe might get it. But some of the reasons that I'm concerned about DC, first of all, the weight loss. DC put on a lot of weight in between those last two fights. He was, if you watched his DC and Hawani show, he lost some 25 pounds in the last 2 months. So you're not going to be in as good shape as if you're able to consistently stay at that top level shape. And it isn't great for a guy who's 40 years old already, 41 years old maybe, to be losing that much weight and to be fluctuating so much. He's had a lot of back issues in the past. He's gotten surgery. Who knows how amazing he is. And yeah, I do think he will be able to respond to those gut punches. I think that those gut punches, he knows that they're coming, and he can set them. He can set up maybe not even a defense, but rather a counter for them, and punish. And
he's
punish
a remarkably self-aware fighter.
Yeah, I think he'll be able to do that. But I mean, and also the question is just, does he follow the game plan? He's talking about it a lot, but you never know what's going to happen. And hopefully he'll be able to put it together, follow the game plan, put on those wrestling shoes, and take it to Stipe, but we'll see what happens. I'm not fully sure.
It's certainly not an easy fight.
What is that?
No question.
Oh my God, that is amazing.
I met him at a Boston Pizza once.
That is crazy. And you still want DC to win?
Yeah, still want DC to win.
Jeez, you better hope you don't meet him again.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting question now. This is now everyone knows that this fight has held that whole division on kind of put it on hold for a while now. And got Ngannou waiting. He has a big 4-fight winning streak against the top guys in the division. He's earned a title shot by everyone's book many times over. If DC wins, he's going to retire, hopefully. If DC loses, he's definitely going to retire. If Stipe wins, we don't really know. I think he'll stick around a little bit, but we don't know. So my question to you guys is not what would you like to happen, but what is better for the division? Stipe or DC winning?
I think either way, the division's about to enter a very tumultuous period. Because I think that because I'm pretty sure that Stipe isn't long for the sport. I think he's done so much, and I think that I very much see him retiring very shortly. He's getting up there in age as well, and yeah, he's done a lot already. I don't think there's anything wrong with finishing on top and saying the best years are probably behind me. I've done it all. I've been through my prime. Let's just live the rest of my life. Especially if he loses, I can see him maybe going either way, because he definitely still has that fire in him, or he would like to retire as a champion, I'm sure.
Still not the question, Noah. You're avoiding the question. What's better for the division? Not should he retire. What's better for the division?
What's better for the division? That's a tough question. Because it depends on which guy winning. I mean, obviously, I think it's always better for the division when it's the guy who's not guaranteed to retire immediately and throw things into a strange place. So it'll be more calm if Stipe wins, and there'll be a more direct pathway for other fighters, to the championship. But I don't personally mind if things are tumultuous and a little weird, and if we get some strange, matchups and maybe some rotating champions. So, you know what? I'm going to say I think it's better for me if DC wins, because I think watching them try to sort out what's happening in the division at that time will be very, very entertaining for me.
Adam.
Honestly, I don't think it really matters. I agree that it'll be a little bit more calm if Stipe wins, and then you can just transition to more fights with him. But at the end of the day, they're still going to make roughly the same type of matchups, regardless of who wins or not. And so, because if DC wins, there's no doubt that Stipe is deserving to fight again for the title against the next contender. So it's the same type of matchups will be made, I believe.
I'm just concerned about Jones, honestly. I'm really worried that because when you look at as you guys were saying, one of you guys were saying earlier that Dana, I think Adam was saying Dana in the interview says that he doesn't think DC should retire yet. He clearly is angling for that Jones fight. If DC wins and they put it on that Jones fight, how long are you going to make Ngannou sit out? Like DC's not going to fight until December, and now Ngannou's not going to fight until next year. And if DC wins again and retires, now who does Ngannou fight? It just puts the whole division. Ngannou needs a fight.
Yeah.
If DC
Ngannou
does
could
retire,
fight Stipe.
so if Ngannou does retire, that wouldn't be for the belt though. If DC still had it.
Right.
If DC retired and Ngannou face Stipe for the belt, I'm not actually for sure. I'm not 100% sure they would do that. I think they might have to. There's not many other options for them. But if Stipe wins, it's an obvious Ngannou rematch, and it's so easy for the division to move on. Ngannou rematch, and no matter who loses, you now can go and bring out any of the other guys and match them up pretty fairly up against Ngannou or Stipe, whoever wins. If you have, it always is bad for a division when you have a champion retire, and then to give Stipe another shot. If he wins, he's not really the champion in a lot of people's minds because he just lost, and now he beat Ngannou, but he didn't beat the champion.
Yeah, it'll be a big what if. Yeah.
I do think it is better if Stipe wins, but I still want DC to win. I just hope he does not go for Jones. Just please don't go for Jones.
No, I really don't see it being reasonable to not give Ngannou the next title shot. I think it's completely unreasonable to not give him the next title shot.
All right. Well, moving on to our co-main event. Now we've got Sugar Sean O'Malley facing off against Marlon Chito Vera. This is O'Malley's third fight of the year. He has, in his third fight since that 2-year suspension from USADA for some bullshit. It was like some traces of Austrian. They proved that it wasn't his fault. It was all a whole mess. But he used those 2 years amazingly well. He trained, he worked. He said he actually barely striked at all that whole time. He was just doing grappling and jiu-jitsu every single day. He put on 8 to 9 pounds of muscle. You see his body changed completely. And ever since he came back, he has that knockout win against Jose Quinones, who was a murderer before that. He'd never been finished. Then he had that highlight reel knockout against Eddie Wineland that everyone's talking about. And now just a month and a half later, he's coming out against Marlon Chito Vera, who is 4-1 in his last 5. That one loss, a lot of people think he should have won. It was against Song Yadong. It was a split decision loss, very controversial. Many people think he should be on a 5-fight winning streak, and he's never been knocked out in his whole career. So this is a really fun fight. Adam, I'll let you start on this one because Noah started on the last couple questions. Who do you call?
You know what?
Fight?
I don't have too much to say here, anyways. I don't really know Vera.
Sean? Adam. Sean.
I love Sean O'Malley. Like, I love everything about him. He's such a great character, and one of the reasons why I like him so much is he's very open about his life outside fighting and the training that he does, like his mental training as well. Like, he meditates a lot. So I just love everything about him. I think he's super technical, and I'm hoping he's just going to steamroll right through Marlon. Marlon is a pretty tough guy, and he's shown it in his last few fights. This is definitely by far the toughest matchup for Sean that he's had. But I think that Sean's skill will overcome Marlon's ferocity.
Yeah, I agree. I do think Sean will win this. Now, there are a few things that I'm not really sure what to think about it because it almost reminds me of the McGregor. Sean has this aura of confidence. He came in against Wineland. He said, "Hey, first round knockout. I'm not being cocky. I'm not being overconfident. I know my style. I know his style, and I just don't see it going any other way." And then he went and he just did exactly that. He went all Mystic Mac. And he's saying the exact same thing against Chito, but Chito's a whole step up versus Wineland. Chito's a really tough guy. Trains with Jason Perillo. Bisping's old coach.
Mhm.
Really, really tough. He's an assassin. He's got some great trips. He's very, very good in the clinch. I think that's somewhere that Sean's going to have to watch out. I think that if Sean gets taken down, that's somewhere where he's going to get taken down. It'll be in the clinch. And Cheeto's got some great jiu-jitsu. It'll be really exciting to see where Sean is at with that jiu-jitsu. I actually wouldn't mind him getting taken down. And with that small cage, it'll be a lot easier for Cheeto to close that distance, get that clinch on Sean, and manage to get those inside trips. I think that Sean is still – I think he's going to be able to dance around. He has amazing footwork, great lateral movements. He'll pick him apart from the outside. And I think that he'll be able to get the job done. I don't know if he'll get that first round knockout he's talking about. I think it might be a little bit more of a grind than he's anticipating. But I think he's ready for 15 minutes. He works real hard. He's come back only a month and a half after that last fight against Wineland. There are a couple other things I wanted to mention about Sean. First of all, he's doing, I think, one of the best jobs in the entire division out of any young guy, in the entire UFC, for any young guy in promoting himself. He goes live on Twitch for 2 hours every single day. He just chills with his fans, playing video games, talking about fighting. He has his YouTube videos he comes out with all the time. He comes out with his...
and those YouTube videos are... I don't love
hilarious.
watching a lot of other fighters' channels because they're very, like, vlog style. Hollow... I don't want to call people out, but I'm going to do it. Holloway, don't like your channel. Your content is not very entertaining for me. I really also don't care for the little, 1.5-minute vlog type videos that Masvidal puts out. However, Sean's videos, I like them. He's sitting, hanging out in front of a camera, just very off the cuff, just saying, "Hey, fellas, here's what I think."
Yeah, so
bottom line.
What I was saying, though, is that so not only does he do this, but he has his podcast, and he has a lot of sponsors. He's doing a really good job making money off a ton of sponsors. He's really, really active on Instagram. He's great at social media presence, calling guys out, but also having fun with it. But then he does things like he calls himself the co-main event. Or he calls himself the main event for everything. He called himself the co-main event when he wasn't the co-main event for this fight. Jairzinho Rosenstrike versus JDS was supposed to be the co-main event for this fight. Since it was announced, he's been calling himself the co-main. The guy, usually I'll call myself the main, but DC Stipe 3, that's a real main event. Fine. I'm the second. They're the second main event. I'm the first main event. They made him the co-main after that. He spoke into existence. The last thing he does, so he just released about 3 weeks ago. He has this really cool thing. He wears this green sugar jersey with the number 00. And he did this new thing where every time he has a fight, he's going to release a jersey, one of each number, numbered 1 through 99. He's only releasing literally 100 or 99 jerseys, one of each number, and he sells them online. So they go live, and you just buy a jersey as fast as you can, and whatever number in that line you are, that's the number you get. But there's only 99 available. He's doing that every single fight, and every fight he changes the color of the jersey. So he just started this last fight. He sold these jerseys for $200 American a pop. So he had 100 of them, sold out in 39 seconds.
Wow.
I mean, it means the man made 20 grand in 39 seconds.
Yeah.
And there were 3,000 or 4,000 people that were trying to buy it that didn't get it on time. So he's putting together some brilliant schemes, making some money, marketing himself well. And if you buy that jersey, you're going to be a Sugar Sean fan for life.
Yeah.
He's quite smart, and he clearly has very smart people around him, leading him in the right direction. One thing I wonder, once Conor really came into prominence, we really entered into the shit-talking era of the UFC with a lot of loud, brash personalities, which I think really peak with guys like we hit peak saturation with guys like Colby Covington, who it's clearly so fake and like complete bullshit. So I think we've hit the peak. We obviously have hit the peak of the shit-talking era. Do you think somebody with the star power of Sean O'Malley, not just the star power, with the marketing ability, maybe we're going to start entering the slacker era of the UFC?
Well, I think
more of his laid-back personalities.
It's different. I think it's not. I think Sean's not an era kind of guy. Sean's his own personality, and that's what drives people to him. What draws people is the fact that he is just himself. And his shit talking isn't the same kind of shit talking. It's subtle. It's clever. It's not just brash in your face. It's him being himself. And if you saw that that video where he made fun of the Cody Garbrandt a Sunsound knockout. He throws his own, he breaks it down in real fine detail.
That was
so,
amazing.
The 1, 2, 3. I went for that uppercut, that fake uppercut, then over the top. And there's some levels
hilarious.
to this. And what did Cody do? He just kind of throws his arm around. He's like, something like that. Pretty cool.
That was pretty good too, I guess.
I guess it was pretty nice. There are levels to this game, but and it's just like he's subtle and he's funny with it, and he's just charismatic.
You can't fake that kind of personality.
You can't copy it.
That's just character.
And you can't copy it either. It's just he's himself.
But people can try. People can try.
I don't think people will.
It's not going to work out, but
I think Connor's gig is a lot easier to fake. It's something that you can just yell and be brash,
Yeah, I think you're right. Fortunately for Connor, on top of the yelling and brashness, he is also a clever motherfucker.
Mm.
And I mean, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, to that point of Sean being so smart, the minute detail of him just dyeing his hair, the Ecuadorian flag, is brilliant.
Easy.
It's so funny.
He's gonna keep dyeing his hair. Like he just has to keep doing it, and people's eyes are gonna keep staying on it.
Yeah, so he's doing a different hairstyle each fight. And so he went.
Do you guys see? Just don't mean to switch topic too much. Do you guys see Adesanya's new hair?
Yeah, so Adesanya went purple. That's a bad move, dude. Everyone knows the blonde fighters are undefeated since this has been a thing. Why would he go and abandon this a month before his fight?
That's true,
come on, dude.
And if I'm not mistaken, he's also on the cover of the new UFC game, no?
He's just calling for all.
Once you're on the cover of a sports game, that's the curse.
Masvidal
fell last.
It's not all sports game, but specifically.
No, it is. It's a long running thing. The curse of the sports game cover. It's all over the place.
So what do you guys think happens if O'Malley wins? Who can we match him up against then? So let's look at the rankings for a second. So we're talking about the 135-pound division. O'Malley is coming in ranked number 14, and of course he's facing off. What do we have ranked for Cheeto? Is Marlon Vera ranked? He's not. So Cheeto Vera is actually not ranked. He should be ranked, I think. But regardless, I think if he wins, he's gonna start moving into that. He should be fighting a top 10 guy. Maybe a Cody Stamen would be a good guy. Maybe a Jimmy Rivera, Rafael Assunção could be good. Even a Jose Aldo.
I'm
wondering if just for the star power alone, if Cruz, I think Cruz would be a good, just like a big name fight. That's not as high on the ranking, but huge in terms of marketing.
I feel like Cruz is too underranked for his skill level. If I'm being honest, I think Cruz should be higher than Aldo. But
I agree. I agree. I think that Cruz hasn't had too many opportunities to really demonstrate. I mean, the last opportunity he had was against someone who you could argue is, one of the best fighters who's ever stepped in the octagon.
I think
certainly the best in his weight class.
A really exciting matchup actually for him would be. I am here skipping a fight. We'll get to that heavyweight matchup later. But that second fight on that main card on UFC 252 is John Dodson against Merab Dvalishvili. That's another 135 fight. Dvalishvili is ranked, I think, 15 or 13 or something. Yeah, Merab is 15, and John Dodson is number 12. The winner of that will be about ranked 12, 11, 10, right around Sean's level. And Merab, I think, especially if it's Merab, I really like Merab. Merab's a really fun guy to watch. He fights he trains with Aljo out in at Nat Sarah Ray Longo in Long Island, or on Long Island, as they say. And he's a gas tank warrior. This guy never ends. He has 12 and 13 takedowns in his last 2 fights. So 25 takedowns in 2 fights combined. Wow. 6 rounds, 25 takedowns. That doesn't make any sense. It's absolute insanity. And one of those, by the way, was at altitude. It was Mexico City, I believe. So it's just like
that's conditioning right there.
I would love to see him fight against Sean O'Malley, right? Because you see Sean, who has this great footwork, dancing around on the outside, amazing striking, and Merab just walks you down, picks you up, slams you down, lets you get back up, picks you up again, slams you down again. Yeah, it's so much fun to watch.
Yeah, that could be a very good fight. He'd have to be, just walking in, have to be so careful with that technical boxing of O'Malley. He's really has that power and that accuracy, and at that weight class, I mean, that's a huge part of the winning formula. either way, he needs that big jump in competition after this, because especially with his last fight, it really, he
I don't think you need a big
completely
jump.
outmatched.
I say from here you go to a guy ranked around 9 or 10, and then you go to a top 5. You look at a 7 through 10 kind of guy. Then you do a top 5, and then you do a title shot.
I agree with you. I just don't think the UFC will follow that. I think that they want to give him a bigger name.
You think it's one fight after this to a title shot, or 2? For what do you know? Not what you think.
I don't
what you
think
what
one
happens. You know what you think it'll be, 1, Adam?
No, I don't think it'll be 1. I do not think it'll be 1. I want to be on the right.
It will be 2.
I think it'll be 2, but I just I believe that they'll give him a bigger name, like somebody like Aldo or Cruz or something like that, as opposed to John Dodson.
Looking back, I would compare him a lot to I would try to guess what the UFC is going to do with him. I would compare him a little bit to Adesanya. I think they have a very similar rise. They both have a lot of hype behind them. They both have a lot of people watching them, and people think they have really, really good potential, and seem to be walking through their competition in a very similar manner. So the way I look at it, I see this fight kind of like the Brunson fight for Adesanya, kind of that level, where he's really kind of borderline top 15. Maybe Brunson's one step ahead of Cheeto. I don't really know. But after that Brunson fight, who did they give him next? They gave him Silva. The plan was that Silva fight was supposed to be the co-main event to Gastelum versus Whitaker. And what's it called? Adesanya actually admitted that that whoever won between Gastelum versus Whitaker, if Adesanya won the Silva fight, he was supposed to walk into the cage and do a face-to-face thing. So they were going to go Brunson to Silva right to the title shot. Now that Gastelum Whitaker fight didn't happen, and he ended up facing Gastelum for the interim belt instead. But they were going to go right to the title shot after just Brunson and Silva. So I wouldn't be shocked if they went from Cheeto to, like, as you guys suggested, maybe a Dom Cruz or a Jose Aldo, or someone really up there, and then right away give him the title shot. But I think he should have 2. I think it should.
Yeah, I agree that he should have 2.
Like a Rafael Assunção maybe, and then like a one of the guys like an Aljo or Sandhagen or Moraes, basically whoever won. Maybe the winner of Sandhagen Moraes.
You really just need to put him up against, after at least one more win, one of these really higher level guys, to see just how much potential he has. And he's so young. He's only 25 years old. I mean,
I think. Oh no, 25. You're right.
Yeah,
25,
he's like our age. He's a kid. He has and he's doing so well already. He has so much potential. I think really the only question at this point is, at what point do you think that he's gonna hold? I think he'll hold it tight. I think that he has the potential to do it. I can absolutely see it, at least within the next few years. I think that he's gonna be that he's gonna hold the title for at least one defense. It's just a matter. I think it's just a matter of when with him.
Okay.
And I mean, just how much better is he gonna get?
Now, I wanted to do something. I kind of forgot to do this earlier. I want to do a little bit of a main event challenge. And just let's just all put our predictions on the line for all 5 fights on that main card, just to see how accurate we are. We'll go through it next week. It's something fun we can do. Just put our guesses in. And you're not allowed to look at the odds. That's cheating.
All right.
So
what's the fight night again? Is it 252?
Yeah. So we have DC Stipe. And you know what? Let's call out like a method or a round or something.
Yeah, give it the round. Let's do the full prediction.
Why not? So DC Stipe. So I say
we can all look stupid next week.
Exactly.
We do this again.
I'm gonna say that DC wins by decision. Adam.
I'm gonna say 3rd round knockout.
For
DC.
And the 3rd round KO. And Noah?
I think it's also going to be a KO, and I think the question is just when. I obviously, as I've said, I think that DC is going to win. I guess I'll give them. I think I could see a round 2 KO. I could see a round 2 KO.
Ooh.
Get into the dirty boxing and just with DC, just take just takes the right shot, really.
Yeah. Cheeto versus O'Malley. Sugar and Cheeto.
What's
Sugar
your
and
prediction?
Cheetos. Mine. I'm between a first round knockout and a second round knockout for O'Malley. I do have a feeling he might drag him into I might drag him into deep waters, but I think O'Malley will be able to handle it. I'll go first round knockout. And
I'll go first round as well, for sure.
All three of us say that? Okay.
Unanimous first round knockout. Vera has going for him that all of his losses so far have been decisions, but O'Malley has going for him that he's fucking Sean O'Malley.
All right,
Marlon Vera's Marlon Vera.
Do we want to see who's closest and decide on a time, just so we can just see who's closest next week? Because we all say first round. I'm gonna say 3.5 minutes in. So how much time does it take for him to knock him out? I'm gonna say 3 minutes and 35 seconds until he knocks him out.
I'm gonna say 1.5 minutes.
And Noah,
are we saying remaining or
how long will it take him to knock him out?
I think he puts him out within the first 2 minutes of the round.
So you're saying 2 minutes or within 2 minutes? What time? Adam said 1:30.
Within 2 minutes.
At 2 minutes, we'll say at 2 minutes then, because you can't really do within.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Jairzinho Rosenstrike is taking on JDS in our third featured bout of the night. Let's actually talk about this very quickly. What do you guys so we have JDS is coming off a couple wins, actually, I believe. JDS is coming off 2 losses. Two losses. He got knocked out against Francis, and then he actually lost against Curtis Blades. He lost TKO by TKO.
Did he?
And this is actually
his only loss ever is just the Ngannou loss.
No, sorry, I'm thinking JDS.
Oh, JDS, yeah.
Not Jairzinho. So JDS is coming off 2 back-to-back losses, knocked out against Ngannou on the feet, knocked out as well on the feet against Curtis Blades with that big uppercut that he caught him with. Or maybe it was an overhand right. I actually don't remember. But regardless, two straight losses. JDS has not come off 2 losses. Has actually never lost.
He's never
lost 2
fights
he's ever
in a
lost
row.
2 in a row. On the other hand, we have Rosenstrike, who's never lost at all, and he came off that huge knockout loss to Ngannou, and that wasn't that long ago. That was actually the first fight card back. That was that Justin Gaethje Tony Ferguson card back in April.
Just a couple months ago.
Right? So it's 3 months since then? 2.5 months since then?
Yeah, May 9th.
That's worrisome to me. To come back against a guy named like JDS, and I mean JDS hasn't fought since January. He's had 7 months off. Come back against that brutal of a knockout against JDS. I don't like it for Jairzinho, as good as Jairzinho is.
Mm-hmm. Also, have you seen a picture of JDS recently? He's shredded.
Is he?
Oh my God, he's an animal. I'll never forget that old video of JDS working the bag when he was first coming to the UFC, and everyone was like, oh, I don't know about this guy. I mean, who is this guy? And then the videos come out of him,
like,
just so much power, so much speed. God, the how terrifying he was in the early days can really never be understated. But
overstated, you mean?
I think overstated. My mistake.
It can be understated.
My mistake, Roey. I think he's gonna lose this one. I think
JDS is gonna lose.
Yeah, I think JDS is going to lose. I don't know that this is the first 2 fight loss streak that he's ever had. They were both, big bad TKO finishes, and he's been in the game a long time. I don't know. I like when you get 2 guys like this, it's just hard to say. I mean, really, any given strike is going to put someone into the shadow realm. But I think that Rosenstrike. I think he does have going against him is that recent KO, but he's a sharp guy and he's a killer kickboxer. So, and I mean he's not fighting someone like Ngannou who can just completely ignore anything he has to throw and just charge in at him like a bull. So in a technical matchup, which it usually is with Dos Santos, it's not just. It's throwing heat, but it's throwing heat, in an intelligent way. I think Rosenstrike takes it. Also, have you guys ever read Rosenstrike's Wikipedia page?
No.
I'm just going to read this passage that I just found on it. On August 2014, Rosenstrike was arrested and detained by the Royal Netherlands. I'm going to skip that word because I don't know how to pronounce it. on suspicion of smuggling drugs along with 7 other Surinamese, don't fuck with me for mispronouncing that too, in Netherlands, who the group claimed to attend a kickboxing event. After 14 days of detention, Rozenstruik was released as the Dutch authorities found 7 members of the group had swallowed balls of drugs, but not Rozenstruik, and he was the only kickboxer among the group. That's just so many things.
I'm not even going to get, I don't even want to touch on that, dude.
Yeah, just
I don't want to touch on that.
That is right above his MMA record. Just two little sentences.
Interesting to know, but what do you call for the fight? So you said Rozenstruik is going to win, and when do you think he's going to win? When do you think he's going to win? Other than the drugs.
When do I
Assuming he's drug free.
Hey, he was drug free then.
Oh, I mean, I was going to say if he had and put those drugs into his system, who knows? Maybe USADA would have caught him. So I guess it's a good thing he didn't.
Yeah, good thing. I think he's going to get it. I'm thinking round 2 TKO.
Round 2 KO, 2 TKO.
I think it'll take a little bit to wear down JDS.
How about Adam? What do you think?
I'm taking JDS for decision.
Decision. Yeah, I'm really on the fence on this one. I think that Rozenstruik is a better fighter. I think he's bigger. I think he's faster. I think he's taller. I think he's more technical. He has the better kickboxing. He's got the better leg kicks for sure. And he's got that power, of course. But I think that big X factor is what does he look like after coming off those 2 losses. I do think JDS will be back. I don't think he'll look too bad. I'm just wondering after that huge knockout very recently, will his chin hold up? I just don't know. And for that reason, I am going to lean. I have a feeling JDS might get it. I do think, again, in a normal situation, I would say Rozenstruik beats him any day. I'm going to say JDS round 2. KO.
JDS KOs Rozenstruik, you think?
That's what I think in the second round.
Okay.
KOs,
All
TKOs.
Right.
Okay. Third fight.
So it's the boys against me.
So
next week we'll find out who's stupid.
So you got Merab versus. I mean, look, we're all pretty on the fence about this, to be fair. But we got Merab Dvalishvili, as we mentioned, taking on John Dodson. So John Dodson is kind of acting that gatekeeper role right now in this fight. He's been around a long time. He's put together some great wins against some great opponents. Merab, as I was saying, has that endless gas tank. He comes in, he picks you up, he dumps you on your head, and he does it another 12 times the rest of the fight. Just doesn't stop. So that's a really, really exciting fight. Who you guys got on this one?
I'm going to take Merab by decision.
I agree on that one. I'm going to say Merab by decision as well.
I don't know. Either of these guys' careers well enough to really put my stake down on this, unfortunately.
So then you should just be fun with it and go
round 1.
Go Dodson.
Round 1 KO Dodson. I think he's going to take. I think he's going to take fastest KO of all time away from Masvidal. I foresee a big jumping. You guys ever play Mortal Kombat?
Not much.
I'm thinking a Liu Kang bicycle kick. You know, where you jump and you get like 7 or 8 kicks to the head.
I think John Dodson, who's not Brazilian in any way, is going to go for the capoeira kick and knock him out. I do think Merab's going to.
We can always stream.
Yeah, I do think Merab is gonna grind him out. Now, Dodson does have some power in his hands though, so that is actually Dodson first round KO. I actually don't think is a terrible prediction. So it might have been random, but it's not foolish. I wouldn't say. Finally, the opening up our main card, we have a really, really, really fun rematch. We got Magomed Ankalaev taking on Ion. I think it's Ion Cutelaba. Now, they fought up once before.
I've seen people's names spelled like that. It might be Ian even.
It might be Ian. Now, they fought once before. Their first fight was, I believe, in either February or March. I think it was actually on potentially the Adesanya Romero card as well. So Magomed Ankalaev, at least in my opinion, was clearly the better striker. Ion is powerful. He's big. He's a wild man. He's a real wild man. But he looked a little bit outmatched by Magomed's just technicality and clean boxing. And so Ion was trying to kind of bait him in. And he kind of played possum. He pretended like he got hit. He was kind of wobbling around pretending like he was hurt.
Yeah.
And to try to bait in Magomed for some big swings, and they called the fight. The ref said, oh, he's down on his feet, and he called the fight. And immediately Ian starts screaming at him like, "What are you doing?" That was really weird. I don't know if you guys remember this. When they announced the fight, when they were announcing Ian's name, he charged at Magomed before the fight started and like pushed him against the fence and like got in his face. They had like all the security run in and separate them before the fight even started. It was just a crazy 3 or 4 minutes. So that's a really, really exciting fight. Magomed is 13-1. Ian is 15-5. What do you guys think about that one? I'm really, really hyped for this fight. I'm really hyped.
I'm probably leaning Magomed.
Absolutely. I think Magomed is going to knock him out.
Yeah, I'd say knockout, maybe probably round 2.
Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be a quick day at the office for Magomed. No question.
First round, second round?
Yeah. Maybe, it could just be a straight first round KO at this point. It really hasn't been a whole lot of time since that first fight. And I don't know. I think round 1 TKO. I'm going to lean on the side of TKO. On Ian hasn't been KO'd more than, just straight KO'd more than one time. I'll give the TKO round 1.
I'm going to go KO. TKO is the same thing, by the way. It's classified as the same.
Is it?
So, yeah, when you bet.
I guess in the grand
it's too arguable, right? And
yeah.
It's like, oh, he knocked him out and then he had 1 grounded pound, and so therefore it's a TKO. Whatever.
Yeah, it's
same
just
thing.
like saving you from being completely out.
Yeah, so I'm gonna
round 1 KO then.
I'm gonna agree with I'm gonna say the first round KO as well for Magomed. Yeah, I think so. We actually are in agreement with the majority of these fights. It was really just the Rosenstrike was the only fight that any of us thought someone else would win. That's pretty entertaining. Pretty interesting. I'm curious what the fight odds are on this, on some of these fights. So we have for DC and Stipe, it's almost a pick 'em. DC is a very, very, very slight favorite, -115 to Stipe's -105. So there's no pluses on either guy. Sean is a 3-1 favorite over Cheeto. I think that's a little strong, but I still think he's going to win that. Rosenstrike is a -150 favorite over JDS.
Yeah.
Merab is a -180 favorite over John Dodson. And finally, Magomed Ankalaev is a 3-1 favorite over Ian. So it looks like the odds are also in our favor, as they say. So yeah, we got a very good card. Anything on the prelims that we want to talk about? Anything that stands out to you guys? We do have Herbert Burns, Gilbert Burns' younger brother. We got Jim Miller fighting Vince the Shell Pichel, I think, or Vince something Pichel.
You gotta love looking up the early prelims when some of the fighters don't even have profile pictures themselves.
Oh yeah, it's great. Those guys that are brand new. The Parker Reporter, I don't know who that is, but I'm excited to see these guys.
Yeah,
actually,
I've got nothing to say about the prelims. I usually don't know who they are, but I'm always so impressed when I watch them. People are just really looking to impress when it comes to these. People aren't being too cautious. They're just really trying to demonstrate their skills, which I like about the somewhat lower levels.
And a lot of them are short notice, and so they don't have the chance to really learn the other guys' specialties. And so what you end up seeing is one of two things: either they're more cautious because they have no idea what to expect, or they throw caution to the wind and they're saying, "I don't know that this guy is going to come out with a spinning back fist every 3 seconds, and so I don't know to watch out for it," and they get caught by it. So
they've got to make their calculations on the fly.
So it gets pretty interesting.
I do like watching that.
And as well the small cage when you have a bit less experience, I think plays a bit of a bigger role. It really forces the action. You can't run away as much. So that's also exciting.
All but one of the kind of early prelims and prelims, all except for the first one, which is a heavyweight bout. They're all like featherweight, women's strawweight, lightweight, and so we're going to see some smaller guys, and it's always fun to see. I much prefer watching smaller guys in the prelims and the lower levels. The big guys, they gas themselves. It's fun to watch them throw humongous strikes for like the first little bit. But I like to see the quick movers. I like to see people dodge real fast. And I like to see some dynamic striking, and that's really what you get when you get.
That's why you like the 155 division. The 155 and 170 divisions are where you find that crazy power mixed in with endless gas tanks, and that's when you see those real fun fights. But yeah, those 135s are getting better and better. The 125s, 145s, they're really, really stepping their game up.
Yeah, so nothing much to say, but other than I'm excited to see the prelims.
Yeah. Adam, anything to add on?
No, I'm just excited as well. Yeah, it's a very good card, and can't wait.
Well, on that note, I guess we'll call it an episode. It's been a really fun one. Noah, I'm glad you joined us for our second episode.
Yeah.
I believe we'll have all three of us for most
glad I
weeks.
can make it.
Yeah, we should have the three of us moving forward for most weeks. So make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, of course. Be on the lookout. We'll have some videos coming out this week, hopefully. Some clips from the podcast, maybe some additional videos. We had a video come out a couple days ago. So be on the lookout for those. Other than that, have a fantastic week. Enjoy your UFC 252 fight card. It's going to be a great night. And we will see you on the next podcast next weekend.
Yes.
Sounds good. Take care, everybody, and good talking to you fellas. I'll catch you later.